AI, at its simplest, is a branch of computer programming whereby a computer is designed to carry out a task such as predict the weather tomorrow, whether it's going to rain, but without being told how to do so. So how does this work? Well, we start by feeding huge amounts of data into the computer that's designed for AI. By using a process of trial and error, the computer actually creates its own understanding of what actually affects the weather. And as we continue to feed more and more data into the computer does more and more iterations of trial and error, and its algorithm and formula and its understanding of what affects the weather actually gets smarter. This ability for AI to self-learn is what makes it so profoundly significant today. So once the computer has actually generated its formula, we can then use this to make very, very fast calculations and predictions, often in real time. In general, the more data we feed into the computer, the more accurate its predictions can become. This process is very similar to the way our own brains work, hence the term and the use of neural networks.
The thing about neural networks is that it is recyclable in some sense, but yet you still need to customize it. So for example, if let's say I have a neural network that I've trained to recognize body postures, you can use it in different industrial verticals. For example, in security, you can recognize somebody squatting in the corner being all suspicious, right?
Now, because AI computers are self-learning, then the cost of creating programs and the time to create them is much lower. So hence, companies, smaller companies, are able to do things that only large companies could do before. So for example, in business, if to predict the type of stock I should buy, how to incentivize my staff, how to target the correct customer base, these are things that used to use a lot of human expertise, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. And now when it's actually almost automated, this enables companies to do much more with a lot less.
So humans don't intuitively have a gut feeling for ethics. They're trained on it. So think about when you're a little child. We teach kids not to steal, right? Because what happens is they come into the kitchen and they take the cookie or the candy that they weren't supposed to, right? Because, hey, there's a piece of candy, no one's looking, I'm gonna take it. And someone comes in and says, who took my candy? Right? And you basically then reprimand them. That's not right. So we teach kids these ethics. Kids don't come out like knowing that things are right or wrong, they're taught. I think that's the same thing with AI. It has to be taught. I have 2 patients come in, I have a limited amount of resources. Who do I say first? Traditionally, doctors, they have a code of conduct. They usually look at things like who has the highest rate of survivability, who has the worst issues in terms of ailments, right? So they make this judgment call because they act in an ethical frame of mind. So instead, think of an AI that's not ethical. 2 people come in, all right, what should I do? Well, this person has a lot more money and can pay the hospital bill. You know, I think I'm gonna save that person, right? Like, what's to say that's wrong? What's to say that's right? Right? Because you can only work on one, you can only operate on one.
So for example, within a big MNC, you can have a lot of data sets sitting in silos, but the moment they start merging these data sets, they actually can piece very, very detailed virtual profiles of individuals, and that could be borderline illegal considering the laws that we have in place right now. So we do need to sort out that part on data governance as a world. There is no right or wrong answer at the moment because I think the world is still kind of figuring out what's going on, assessing the situation, and yeah, there's no consensus on what is the right approach. And it might be a little bit too late by the time they actually decide on that. So let's see how it goes, you know?
If you think about computing in general, all the cool projects are with the person, whether it's robotics or artificial intelligence. What I do specifically is, as a roboticist, I look at human-robot interaction, which is systems that have robots and people together doing interesting things, whether it's therapy, whether it's education, and these aspects of it.
I don't know, a sci-fi futuristic picture where, you know, we are all in flying cars, or we are all, you know, sitting from home and everything's automated for us. I mean, as humans, you still need to wake up, go to the toilet, go to work, etc. And if history has taught us anything, it is about increasing our efficiency with technology and not so much of, we can take a step back and relax because, we are workaholics in some sense. We try to always achieve the best we can.
Now, because AI can generate predictions so quickly, it enables a new breed of types of capabilities and technologies. So for example, things like unmanned stores, drone deliveries, technologies such as self-driving cars.
So the upsides, if we get this aspect of ethical AI right, is that our quality of life will be amazing and immense. It means that things like education, which will be much more accessible to everyone. It means healthcare, we'll have personalized healthcare where you might come to a doctor and someone else come to the doctor and we get exactly the same outcomes, which basically means we live forever or as long as we can.
So what can we do about all this? Well, if AI is now affordable, accessible, ubiquitous, then the trick, therefore, would be to move faster than your competitors. Because it's now so straightforward to start collecting your data, using your data and creating algorithms. To be honest, the challenge that I see is that companies are still resistant to these changes.
So if we don't get this right, the gap between the people who have and the people who have not is going to get wider. And I always say that means that, people like myself who design and develop, I'll be okay and my kids will be okay. But the people who are not as knowledgeable will not, which is basically a lot of individuals in this world. And so if we don't get it right, we will have a very small population of people who benefit, and then everyone else will not. And I think about movies such as The Matrix. There was a very small population that believed, right? Which pill will you take, right? Very small population that believed, and if you look at their lifestyle, they were happy, but basically poor. And then the rest of society, they had jobs and they were in this virtual, but in reality, they were in cocoons, right? That's the reality if we are not careful.